One of the things that makes Kevin Durant the best scorer of all time is his scoring numbers and his efficiency. Among the modern day players in NBA history, that's players who came into the league after the 1976 season, Kevin Durant is third all time in points per game, averaging 27 points. That puts him only behind Michael Jordan and LeBron James, and ahead of great scorers like AI, Harden, Melo, Steph, and Kobe. But what separates Kevin Durant from almost all of these players is his efficiency from all areas on the court, and particularly his jump shooting. KD throughout his career has shot 49% from the field, 38% from three, and 88% from the free throw line. KD is also one of only 8 players in the 50-40-90 club. And out of all the players who are top 8 in points per game in the modern era, he has the second best efficiency, only trailing Stephen Curry. This is one of the reasons why I do believe he is the best scorer of all time, due to him being so high in points per game average, and with him arguably being the most efficient, prolific scorer ever. Now, efficiency is a good way to measure how effective a player scores the basketball, but it shouldn't almost always be the end-all be-all to determine who is the better scorer between two players. For example, let's look at Pascal Siakam and Jason Tatum. Both of them average around the same amount of points and shoot around the same from the field. So why, when it came playoff time, Siakam struggled for the most part and Jason Tatum maintained his great level of play? The reason behind that is the difference in their scoring arsenal. Pascal Siakam is a talented young player in the NBA, and he has improved every year he's been in the league, adding new facets to his game like a better jump shot and a better handle. But he still has limitations in his game. At this current moment, he is still a little raw when it comes to creating his own shot. He doesn't really have a mid-range game or a pull-up game. And while he's athletic and lengthy, he isn't the physical specimen like a Giannis or LeBron, where at times, no matter what the defense throw at them, they can still dominate. Now, when we dive into Siakam's game, he's more so of a downhill player, relying more so on his athletic ability and his length to get his points. He will normally try to beat you with straight line drives, spot up shooting, which he's decent at, but never really gonna kill you with his jumper. And occasionally he'll take you to the post, which is not the strongest part in his game, but he has shown flashes of greatness from there. When it came down to playoff time, teams started to game plan against his straight line drives, limiting him from getting the easier drives to the paint he would normally get in the regular season, due to teams in the playoffs having better defensive rotations and playing better help defense. And it didn't help that he was struggling from his three-point shot too in the playoffs. This caused him to go from 23 points per game in the regular season to about 17 points per game in the playoffs. But when we look at Tatum's scoring numbers from the regular season to the playoffs, he went from 23 to 26 points per game. So why didn't he suffer the decrease in scoring like Siakam? That is because Tatum has the far superior scoring arsenal. He can drive and get to the paint. He can shoot the three at an elite level. He has a great mid-post game he can go to, a sweet fadeaway from the post, and he has great off-the-dribble moves to get to his sweet spots in the mid-ranges for nice mid-range pull-ups and fadeaways. By having all these things in his bag, it makes him harder to guard for the opposing team, and it allows him to be able to get his points against anyone, because the defense can't limit him how they would limit Siakam due to him having a better and more diverse offensive arsenal. So with that being said, stats and efficiency aren't always the best way to determine who is the better scorer. You always need to break down a player's skill set and use the eye test to determine who is really the better scorer. Now with that being said, in order for me to fully explain why Kevin Durant is the greatest scorer of all time, along with his stats, I must prove to y'all why his scoring arsenal makes him the best scorer ever. Now let's look at KD's scoring arsenal. Just like most of the elite scorers of the modern era, he has no weakness in his game. KD can virtually score from any spot on the court. He's one of the best three-point shooters of all time, an elite finisher going to the paint. He's a great scorer from the post, and in my opinion, he's the best isolation player in the game right now, due to his array of moves he has off the dribble and the fact that he can score from every area on the court at a high level, and he's arguably the best mid-range shooter of all time. Yes, I said it, of all time. Go look at the stats. I don't believe there's one player in NBA history who can score at every area of the court as good as Kevin Durant from a totality perspective. So let's compare KD's scoring arsenal to some of the top scoring players of the modern era and see what separates him from those players. Now, Steph is a great scorer. He's the best shooter of all time and has one of the most elite handles we've ever seen in NBA history. But Steph is not the isolation scorer that Kevin Durant is, and doesn't punish people with his drives to the paint and his mid-range shooting like Kevin Durant. Now, for the last couple years, James Harden has been the NBA's most prolific scorer, no doubt, averaging anywhere between 29 to 36 points per game for the last 5 years, but he's not better at scoring than Kevin Durant. Harden is excellent in isolation, consistently hitting step-back contested threes, and is great at getting to the rim due to his great handles, strength, and quick first step. But due to him relying solely on the three-point shot, at the rim finishes, and getting fouled to hit free throws, it makes him more predictable as a scorer, which helps the defense contain him and it helps hinder his scoring ability. Now, if he was to use the mid-range more, which I believe he'll dominate at, and if he added a consistent post game to his arsenal due to his size and strength at the shooting guard position, I believe it would make him harder to guard. But Kevin Durant, on the other hand, has all of that in his game, which makes him a better scorer to me because it makes him harder to contain. Now let's compare him to LeBron. LeBron is a fantastic scorer despite many people not looking at him as a scorer. He has freakish athleticism and is a freight train going to the hole. LeBron has also turned himself into an above average three-point shooter and has become more deadly in the post as well. But LeBron isn't more proficient than KD anywhere on the court besides the paint. Everywhere else, KD clearly scores better than LeBron, more importantly from the mid-range. Compared to KD, LeBron doesn't have the array of moves off the dribble to create his own shot, and LeBron doesn't have that natural scoring feel from the mid-range like KD does. Now let's get to the players who epitomize being all-around great scorers. That's Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and Carmelo Anthony. They all have every facet of scoring in their game. These players are three of the greatest isolation scorers the game has ever seen and can kill you in literally every spot on the court at a high level. But so is KD. KD can also do everything that Kobe, Jordan, and Melo can do. But what separates Kevin Durant from them is his ability to shoot the ball from the three at a high level. All of them are great shooters, obviously, but KD does it at a higher level. The numbers prove it, with him making more threes and shooting higher from the field, and you can just tell watching the games that KD is the better distance shooter between Melo, Mike, and Kobe. Lastly, this may be the most integral part and why I believe that Kevin Durant is the greatest scorer of all time. This right here makes him the most unique scorer ever as well. None of the best scorers of the modern era have this. Not Mike, not Kobe, not LeBron, not Melo. What these players aren't is they are not 6'11" with a 7'5" wingspan like Kevin Durant. Now let's put this in perspective. Nikola Jokic is 6'11" with a 7'3" wingspan, and Karl Anthony Towns is 6'11" with a 7'4" wingspan. KD is just as tall as them, has a longer wingspan, and he plays the guard position. This makes him harder to guard because he will almost always have far more length than the opposing players guarding him, which will allow him to shoot over the defense better than any other great scorers, and it makes him harder to contest. Considering the fact that Kevin Durant is 6'11" with a 7'5" wingspan, which makes him a mixed match nightmare, plays the guard position, can score on every area of the court at a high level, and is the most proficient shooter of all the top scorers except for Steph, those things right there make him, in my opinion, the best scorer of all time.